The participant, thank you, Laura, is sort of plateauing, or at least the rate of people joining. So why don't we go ahead and get started? And I know that we have one more candidate who's going to be joining us any minute now, but we can start off with some of our introductions to the night before we do. So first of all, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. My name is Rhea Powell. I am a committee person in the 2nd Ward with the 2nd Ward Democrats. This Senate candidate forum tonight is co-sponsored by the 1st Ward, the 2nd Ward, Indivisible Philadelphia Neighborhood Networks, and the River Wards Area Democrats. And so before we begin, I'd like to just give some of our spokespeople from those organizations an opportunity to introduce themselves and say a little bit about their organizations. So why don't we start, Gloria, if you can introduce yourself and Neighborhood Networks.
Hello, I'm Gloria Gilman, Chair of Philly Neighborhood Networks. For 17 years, we have engaged, educated, and empowered our neighbors to support candidates and policies that put people and the planet before profit. We are a citywide organization with an emphasis in the Northwest with some 3,600 members.
Great, thank you. Molly, can I turn to you?
Hi, thank you. I'm Molly Hartman. I'm the current president of River Wards Area Democrats. We're a new independent political organization that serves wards 5, 18, 31, and 25 in the Fishtown, Kensington, Northern Liberties area. And we work to provide information, public discussion, and encourage participation in the democratic process and support progressive candidates and causes.
Great. Molly. Vicki?
Hi, I'm Vicki Miller, and I am the group leader of Indivisible Philadelphia. Our group has been around since early 2017. We are a citywide group, and we educate voters. We educate our membership about election issues and about all sorts of other issues. We do a lot of the indivisible type work. We register voters, we canvass, we like I say, we educate voters, and we work all over the city to do all of that. So very interested. We have about 11,000 members.
Great, thank you.
Hi, good evening, everybody. My name is Sean Murphy. I'm the co-chair of the 1st Ward Democrats Endorsement Committee. We're an open and progressive ward in South Philly, representing just over 10,000 Democrats, right below 2nd Ward, and pleased to be here.
Thank you. And as I mentioned, I'm Rhea Powell. I'm one of the committee people with the 2nd Ward Democrats. I'm one of the co-chairs for our endorsements committee, and I'm joined by my colleague, Larry Lindsay, who is also my co-chair. And we also have our ward leader, Colleen Puckett, and Laura Boyce, who is helping to manage the Zoom from the 2nd Ward, and Ted Schmeeken. And I know there's many others from all of our organizations who have joined who we can't see. So thank you all so much for being here. And just a little bit about the 2nd Ward. We are an open ward in South Philadelphia of committee people who are elected and educate voters, engage voters, help make sure that we get out the vote and have neighbors who are sharing information about our election. So we're really excited to have you here with us tonight. So just a little bit about the format that we're going to use for the remainder of the hour until 8 o'clock. We are going to ask a series of questions of each of the candidates, and we'll give each candidate that is here tonight an opportunity to respond. We did invite all of the candidates who are running to be the Democratic senator for Pennsylvania to participate tonight. We had scheduled 4, unfortunately at the last minute, one of the candidates was not able to join, but we are very excited to have here tonight Alex Khalil and Kevin Baumlin, and I know Malcolm Kenyatta is going to be joining us very shortly. So what we will do, we have a series of questions. We're going to ask each of the candidates to respond in 2 minutes. We will be keeping time. Gloria Gilman is our esteemed timekeeper, and she will, when there's 30 seconds left for any questions, she will hold up a piece of paper that says 30 seconds on it so that you, if you see the paper, you know there's 30 seconds left, so that you know time is coming up. And we are going to ask people to keep it to 2 minutes, so we each give each candidate an opportunity to answer. And she's got a bell, so if it hits 2 minutes and you hear a bell, that means your 2 minutes is up. So we appreciate your attention to that. We want to cover as much as we can tonight, although certainly in 1 hour we won't be able to cover all of the issues that are important to all of us, to all of you that are watching. And so we also know that there are written questionnaires that several of our organizations have asked the candidates to complete, and those will be posted on our website. And so we'll have additional content and topics that are covered there, and we encourage you to look. I know the Second Ward has one, Neighborhood Networks, and our other organization partners may as well. And what we'll do for the evening is we will start the first question. We will just rotate the order of responses so that everybody gets a chance to be the first person to answer a question and the last person to answer a question, and we will get through as much as we can. So with that, I am going to go ahead and we will hopefully have, there we go. We've got Malcolm Kenyatta here as well. And we're going to, perfect timing. There we go. Okay. So we were just introducing the evening. We're just going to be, we're going to dive right into the questions. We're going to be asking a series of questions. You'll have 2 minutes for each one. And we're going to start the first question. We're going to be going in alphabetical order, and then we'll kind of rotate from there. So the first question, we just wanted to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself and tell us why you are running for Senate. And we will start this question. We're going to go in alphabetical order for this one. So we'll start with Kevin Baumlin.
Thank you, Ria, and thank you everyone for all your commitment to our neighborhoods and to the democratic process. Greatly appreciated. My name is Dr. Kevin Baumlin. I'm your neighbor, actually. I live on 22nd Walnut here in Philadelphia. I was born in Philadelphia, a couple blocks from my home here at Hahnemann Hospital, and came back to Philly for my grad school and my training, and then did my internship down at Crozer Chester. Most recently, I've been working in the neighborhood actually as well. I was the chair of emergency medicine and urgent care services at Pennsylvania Hospital, just a couple blocks away from where I live. I started the urgent care center actually at Broad and Passyunk to bring quality healthcare to the neighborhood as well. My life's work has been caring for people. That's what I do. That's why I'm running. I'm running to work on the issues that come through the door of the ER, from homelessness to the opioid crisis to caring for your older adult loved ones. In particular, healthcare, jobs, and education are the big three that I talk about a lot on the trail, and hopefully I'm sure we'll cover some of those topics tonight in further detail. I've been a doc working as a leader in the space of older adult care, in particular for the last 15 years, trying to improve Medicare and make it better for all. I came out with my healthcare plan a couple of weeks back, which is 3 fundamentals of better healthcare: universal, simple, and accessible. I hope we get some time to talk about that as well. Thank you for the invitation, and I'm looking forward to the discussion. And it's nice seeing you, Malcolm and Alex. We don't get to be in the same room as much anymore, but it's nice seeing your faces anyway. Have a good night, everyone.
Great. Thank you so much. All right. So we're going to just do this one in alphabetical order. And if I have my alphabet right, I think up next we have Malcolm Kenyatta. So the question is, again, just if you can introduce yourself and tell us why you're running for Senate in Pennsylvania.
First of all, good evening. I'm excited to be with you all. And I apologize, I'm in my car because we just had a standing room only, by the way, a meet and greet here in Murraysville, PA. And so, you know, we're doing in person, we're doing virtual, but excited to be with you. I launched this campaign by saying that we need to answer a simple question that I still think we need to answer. Who do we think government should work for? Genuinely, who should it work for? I think it should work for working people and working families. I think that there is a basic American bargain that people don't see made real in their life, if it was ever real for their family. The basic bargain is about this idea that you can have one good job backed up by a union, that your kids are going to go to a good, fully funded public school, that if you get sick, you can actually go to the doctor and then be able to afford the prescriptions that you might need after the appointment. And then it's about that ability to retire with a level of dignity in a community that is safe, in a house that you were able to afford in the first damn place, and in the place where you raised your family that has clean air and clean water. That basic bargain is not real for most people. And so when we think about what it takes to win this election, which we must win, first and foremost, we're going to have a nominee that's able to bring our party together. And we're going to have a nominee who can speak to the disaffected voters who've thrown their hands up and said, the basic bargain's not real for me, and I don't trust any politician to get it done. I know what it means when government doesn't work for working families like mine, and I'm going to take that experience to Washington with your help. And so I'll stop there and thank you again for the opportunity.
Thank you so much. All right, and so now I'll turn the question to Alex Khalil. Can you introduce yourself and why you're running for Senate?
Sure. Good evening. My name is Alexandria Khalil, but please, everyone calls me Alex. I'm a counselor in Jenkintown. I've just been elected to my second term. I'm a mom of a son with dyslexia. I'm an activist. I've been helping candidates since Barack Obama in 2007, when my son said, "Mom, I'm going for this guy, Barack Obama. You should take a look." And I'm an attorney who's helped people get guardianship of their adult children with disabilities and helped families get care, special education, health services. I'm running because as a local person, as a local elected official, as an activist, as a mom, as an attorney, and I can tell you just how much and how bad, and in all the ways in which the Republican Party and some Democratic policies have hurt Pennsylvanians. I can tell you that from our sewers not being properly funded from the federal government because of infrastructure, our schools, especially special education, not being properly funded, whether it be in Jenkintown, in the city, or anywhere in the state, I can tell you how bad our special education programs are being underfunded. I can tell you that we can and must have criminal justice reform and fight crime, because we do that every day. Jenkintown is one of the few communities that has its own public school, its own police department. I can tell you these things because every day, as a counselor, as an activist, as a mom, I've worked on these things. One of the things that is so important to me is that I bring the sense of community to the Senate. That when I go to the Senate, I will speak to communities, whether they're in Philadelphia, whether they're in Jenkintown, whether in Clarion County or Schuylkill County, or in Allegheny County. I will remember communities because that is my training as an elected official, a community-based elected official, a borough councilor. And I'll take that same passion, that same commitment, whether it's to environmental stewardship, education, healthcare, prescription drugs, criminal justice reform, and fighting crime. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and for our next question, I'm going to turn it over to Gloria Gilman from both Neighborhood Networks and the Second Ward, as well as our timekeeper tonight, to ask the question.
Good evening.
Sorry, Gloria. This question will go first to Malcolm Kenyatta, and then we will go around from there.
Okay, there's a huge and growing income and wealth disparity in our country that is particularly egregious for people of color. What proposals would you make or support to reduce these gaps?
Gloria, you're working double, triple duty here today, so thank you. But let me say this: when we think about rising costs that we've seen, we have to talk a lot more about what is at the root of that, because those rising costs have put a greater burden on the families that you mentioned in your question, families like mine. Those rising costs are driven in large part by corporate greed, by the fact that there are so many corporations in this country that have not paid their fair share and have no real interest in reinvesting in the communities, in the workers, in the neighborhoods from which they have been able to amass insane amounts of wealth. Take gas prices, for example. Increase in gas prices are something that are going to hit families like mine first and worst, neighborhoods like mine first and worst. The cost of crude oil has dropped dramatically since the beginning of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. That was supposed to be the reason that people saw gas prices going up. Today, it's back where it was before the invasion, and yet gas prices are still going up as companies like Sunoco and BP and Shell rake in money hand over fist. And that is true about the income inequality that we're seeing more broadly. There has been a complete and utter disrespect of workers, and we've not made any of the investments that we need to. So a couple of things we need to do. Pass the PRO Act, making it easier for people to collectively bargain on the job, because we know where there is a union, there are higher wages, there are better benefits, there's more dignity. Raising the minimum wage to at least $15 as the floor, because we know that's something we should have done a long time ago, but at least as the floor. Also, making sure that we are dealing with some of the hard costs that people have, like the cost of childcare, the cost of prescription drugs, the cost of home care for an aging loved one. These are the things that I've talked about. That is that basic bargain, which is not real for folks. And it is going to take somebody who's going to be an absolute fighter for working families in communities like mine to get it done.
Thank you. All right, we'll turn that same question to Alex Khalil next.
What are some of the things I would do? I'd like to go straight to the question and then talk about why. The reason why we're seeing a lot of the income equality is price gouging. And as a senator, I would do an investigation into this price gouging. You know, the price gouging, whether it's at the pump or affecting small businesses or families. My parents, I'm the daughter of immigrants, Palestinian immigrants from the West Bank. My parents had very limited formal education, and yet they started their own business. And I was one of 6 children. So I understand what it is to, when prices rise, it really affects a family. It affected our small business. And I can only imagine how today it is affecting businesses across the state. I have spoken to especially folks in the restaurants and grocery store owners, and they keep telling me prices are unbelievable at the wholesale level. So I would investigate price gouging. Next, I would sit back and investigate, make sure antitrust, you know, some of the things that we saw with the meat packing. You know, we have to understand the full range of what a senator can do. So it's dealing with antitrust. It's dealing with price gouging. So those are 2 things that I would look into. Another thing, of course, and I agree with Malcolm, is yes, we have to raise the minimum wage and we have to take care of childcare. We do have to subsidize that. I don't know any Democrat who's saying no, they don't agree with that. Those are must be. We must take care of education from pre-K through college and career training, job training. Another thing definitely is to sit back and help families raise their skill levels, providing job training, making sure we bring back manufacturing. And that goes back again to why I support Build Back Better, because it's about industrial policy. And that is what is the key to Build Back Better, is that it is industrial policy of bringing a carrot stick approach. You manufacture in the United States, you bring, you preferably hire union workers, and we will give you carrots. You sit back, you offshore jobs, you send them abroad, or you're a foreign company and you're inflating prices through manipulation of your currency, et cetera. We're going to punish you through tariffs. So those are some of the things that I, as a senator, can sit back and say, hey, the small business person, the immigrant, the folks in North Philadelphia, Southwest Philadelphia, in Clarion County, in Schuylkill County, in Allegheny County, they're hurting. And why is that? Because people are cheating the system. Who are cheating the system? Foreign countries and our corporations. So thank you.
Thank you. All right. And Kevin Baumlin.
I feel quite strongly that the greatest reason for inequity in our society is our healthcare system that's driven by money and power and not by caring. As a provider through the COVID pandemic and several other major healthcare crises, and someone who's led diverse teams in order to improve healthcare, I'm reminded of a woman I took care of maybe a year or so ago who had COVID. She was around in her 30s, I guess, and she had 2 kids and 2 jobs. And I told her, look, you've got COVID and I really need to stay in the hospital. Your oxygenation's on the low side. And it would be much better for you and for us to be able to watch you for a couple of days. And she looked at me and she said, absolutely not. And I said, what's going on? And she said, I've got 2 kids, I've got 2 jobs, and my deductible is $9,000. And I just can't afford it. It would wipe me out. It would just ruin my entire year. I'd probably have to go bankrupt. And I was, whoa, okay. So let's figure this out. And we got her a pulse ox, which is a little thing that reads your oxygen level, and got her texting every day, and got her masks when PPE was hard to find, and got her gloves. And she worked taking care of older adults in West Philadelphia during the pandemic. And that was a tough decision. And it highlights why our healthcare system is broken. You don't have healthcare if you have a $9,000 deductible. You can't afford that. We can't ask working class people who have good jobs, who are really trying everything, to work 2 jobs. They don't get to see their kids because they're going to the next job. You need a living wage with healthcare taken care of. My healthcare plan details this, that we need to raise Medicaid to 400% of the poverty line. We need to fix Medicare so it's all inclusive without copays and deductibles and those supplements. And who needs a 125-page book for your Medicare? I can go on healthcare in particular, but the key to fixing inequities in our society is fixing our healthcare system and jobs with a living, not just a minimum wage. That was the dinger. I think that was the timer, Gloria,
Yes.
huh?
Yes.
I got dinged.
All right, thank you. And you led right into our next topic. So the next question is related to healthcare. So over 600,000 Pennsylvanians still remain uninsured even after the passage of the Affordable Care Act. And even among people who have insurance, healthcare costs are often extremely burdensome. And so as senator, what would you do? And I'm going to ask this question first to, just checking my list here, first to Alex Khalil, and then to Kevin Bomlin, and then to Malcolm Kenyatta. So as the United States Senator, what would you do to make healthcare in the United States more accessible and more affordable? And Alex.
First of all, I do support Medicare for all. I would like to see a system similar to what they have in Australia, where private and public stand side by side, but it would provide coverage to everyone. So that is my Medicare for all. Number 2, the short term would be to make sure that we up the subsidies for ACA. We need to do that. When we saw with the American Rescue Act, it provided more subsidies and more Americans were covered. So short term, I would make sure we had enough for subsidies. I would sit back also and take a look at what we're spending, what our healthcare is costing us. And this is where Dr. Ballman, I'd like your expertise, and I would reach out to doctors like Dr. Ballman and others and say, tell me why in the United States a colonoscopy costs a different price in different states, and why a colonoscopy is more expensive in the United States than in Europe. What is it that we're doing? Why is it that many of our hospitals look like luxury hotels instead of hospitals? And why do we have such high infection rates? Again, I would speak to an expert like Dr. Baumann, who I respect very much, and others. So in addition to that, I would take away all deductibles from Medicare. Again, I would basically what Dr. Baumann talked about. Medicare, to eliminate caps, co-pays, deductibles, and also make sure that we negotiate prescription drug costs. And I would like to see some type of price range, like what we do with Medicare, where there are costs, you can't charge more for certain procedures. And I would work with professionals. I think that's important. I'm not a doctor, nor am I a public health advocate. So we have a lot of great and very smart people in the field. And I can tell you, I will be their advocate. I have been an advocate for healthcare. I worked with 2 non-doctors, and we went to throughout the community in Montgomery County to explain the Affordable Care Act. And On that end, I will be an advocate to lowering the cost of healthcare and making sure that through Medicare for All, that we have coverage for all Pennsylvanians and all Americans.
Thank you. And I'll turn it to Kevin Bomlin.
So thanks, Alex. We've been spending a lot of time together. We're starting to rub off on each other. My thoughts on making healthcare more accessible can be read further in detail through my healthcare plan, which is available on my website, Dr. B4PA. But my comments, I think, will surround how we can fix Medicare and make it comprehensive and inclusive. As an advocate for older adults, I've worked in this space for many, many years, not just looking at and thinking about our Medicare program, but actually developing and thinking about programs that decrease the cost, improve the quality, and therefore improve the value proposition. That's what the ACA was all about. I was a funded researcher in that space. We actually put social workers in ERs and front-loaded social work care and thought about it as a team approach. I'm a doc. I take care of people. I do the medicine part. I need qualified people to help me. The teamwork of healthcare is essential to moving forward to controlling the costs and making our healthcare system better. That's one idea, and we prove that we can reduce healthcare costs for Medicare beneficiaries by $2,000 to $3,000 per beneficiary per year by just having a social worker in an ED. Furthermore, we need to enhance home care, adding 4 hours of qualified home care to every person who has Medicare, so that when you go home from the hospital, you can go home a couple of days early. So you can go home from the ER with home care and oxygen, which was a huge, big leap to go over, so that people can have the dignity of being ill at home and care for at home, even if they don't have someone to care for them. We can do that in our healthcare system. It'll bring down costs, improve quality, and enhance the value. Obviously, this topic I can go on and on, but I don't want to get dinged again, so I'm going to stop before Gloria yells at me. Malcolm.
Yes, we'll turn to Malcolm.
Thank you for that. And these things are deeply interconnected, right? These questions have built in a way that has been a real reminder that the challenges we face and that communities are faced are deeply interconnected. It's why I've been consistent in saying we got to get to Medicare for all. But I've also been clear in saying, as your senator, any bill that comes to the floor that makes healthcare more accessible, lowers the prices of prescription drugs, expands coverage for Medicare, I'm a hell yes to that bill. When you think about the full Build Back Better in its initial iteration, expanded so many of the different parts of Medicare to make it more robust, vision, dental, hearing, on and on, that obviously did not move forward. Having it so that Medicare can negotiate those drug prices, having real patent reform so we can look at why and how companies are able to hold on to a patent for so long, they're not able to get to generics quick enough, thereby lowering the price as well. But also dealing with the fact that certain communities, because of lack of access to stable housing, lack of access to a quality job that pays a real living family wage, that there are certain communities where folks have many more chronic conditions, particularly in Black and Brown communities. And this pandemic exposed that. This is America. It should not be that every campaign cycle, we are having this same damn conversation over and over again. I watch my mom, who's a home health aide, have to ration her insulin after working 12, 16 hours a day, serving the people that she served. Because of a screwed up healthcare system, I buried both of my parents by the time I was 27. And so when I think about what happens when government doesn't work, I know that all too well. And as your senator, I'm going to be in the fight on so many of the different areas that I mentioned and so many that we don't have time to get to fix this problem once and for all.
Thank you. All right. For the next question, I'm going to turn to Molly Hartman from River Wards Area Dems. And this question, we're going to start with Kevin Bomlin. We're back to alphabetical order. So Molly, I will turn it to you.
Thank you. So This question is about reproductive rights, which are more important than ever, especially considering what's going on at the Supreme Court. And here in Pennsylvania, we don't necessarily have the guarantee of state policy, given the statewide races this year. So as senator, what will you do to ensure safe, legal, and affordable access to the full range of reproductive health care services, including abortion?
Yeah, I have very strong opinions in this area, mainly because it's no one's business besides a woman and her doctor what happens with her body. These moments and these decisions and these times when I was thinking about a woman I cared for not so long ago who was in her second trimester, actually. And I sent her for an ultrasound. So things aren't quite right. I don't know, I have a little bleeding. And I had to go and tell her that her fetus was no longer had a fetal heartbeat. And I can still hear the scream, the wail and the cry that we shared as I held her hand. And, that woman didn't kill her fetus. That woman had an incredibly sad event in her life that has no place with any legislator involved. That's between her loved ones, and her provider. This issue it's a wedge issue because it's a sexist issue, frankly. It's not okay for a bunch of, frankly, white men to sit in a room and decide and legislate how a woman can and should make her healthcare decisions. It's just nobody's business. It's a medical and many times religious decision, and that it's not up to anyone else and shouldn't be part of the legislative process. And I would fight hard because of the people, the patients I've cared for, and the situations I've been in. And it's a knowledge base that I come from as a provider, as someone who's cared, managed a team, managed patients for many years of my life. I feel quite a little emotional, a little passionate about it, because I really don't think it has anything to do with the legislative process.
Thank you. All right, we'll turn the question to Malcolm Kenyatta.
Thank you. And I don't think there's going to be any daylight on this call, even among the candidates who didn't come tonight, on whether or not we all agree that we need to be about the business of protecting one of the most basic rights that people can control their own damn body. But here's the difference for me. I've been working on this issue and with activists on this issue for a long time. I was the second male ever elected to the board of the National Organization for Women, the Philadelphia chapter, former co-chair of Liberty City LGBTQ Democratic Club in the city. And these are issues that were part and parcel of the work and activism that we did. And I took that with me to Harrisburg, where I am the co-sponsor of the Pennsylvania version of the Women's Health Protection Act, of which Judy Chu is sponsoring in Washington. We have a Pennsylvania version, myself and Representative Morgan Cephas, who's the co-chair of the Women's Health Caucus. Because even right now, put aside the awful, un-American bounty bills that we're seeing in Texas, and now there's a new one in Missouri, where if you leave the state to go get an abortion somewhere that it's illegal, that people can sue women and providers for getting abortion care in a state where it's been severely restricted. These are incredibly crazy, batshit ideas. But here in Pennsylvania, we need to be clear that there are barriers right now to people accessing abortion access and reproductive care right now in state law. And so I've been working at the state level to try to repeal these barriers so that anybody who wants an abortion, which is healthcare, has ready access to it. And I'm going to take that same fight to Washington. I'll just end with this note. I've been invited a lot of places as an elected official. Some I'm like, why the hell would you invite me to this? But I've never been invited to be a part of what is one of the most difficult decisions that any person who gets pregnant has to make between them, their family, and their faith.
Thank you. All right, and Alex Khalil.
As a senator, I would seek to codify Roe v. Wade. So I think that's one. Number two, I would make sure that we, and this is where I believe this is important because this is not brought up enough. This whole idea of pro-life talk is absolutely ridiculous and hypocritical on part of the Republicans. They have cut funding for prenatal care. They've cut funding for postnatal care. They've cut funding for children with disabilities. They've capped services for children with people with disabilities at 21. And then if you're as an adult, you have an adult with disabilities, it's based on how much on your income as the parent. Like, so they pretend to be pro-life when in actuality, they are anti-life. They want to control a woman's womb and they want control of a woman. And it is red meat. I'd like to tell you a family story. It's a personal story from my family, my mother. I was a little girl. My sister was about 3. My brother was 4. I was 5. My mother was pregnant with her 5th child, or one of her many children. She was pregnant. And the doctor told her, "Miss, your baby has water in the brain. And we recommend you have an abortion because this may kill you." And my mother's very religious. She's a devout Muslim. And she said, "No, I won't do this." And this is where we saw pro-life. I want to let you hear about real pro-life. We were living in New York and the doctors in the hospital said, "Okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to get you a nurse to take care of your children." They asked my father, "Do you need any services, food?" He goes, "No, I just need someone to take care of your children, of my children while I work." So they got Mrs. Drummond to take care of us. My mother stayed in the hospital until the baby was born and lived only a couple of minutes. That's pro-life. And we as Democrats need to call out the Republican Party when they are anti-life. And I will do that, and I do it all the time. So we expand Medicaid to make sure no matter a woman's situation, that if she finds herself in a situation like my mom and wants to carry the baby to full term, we will take care of her. We will provide her nursing care. And the family nursing care. We will help the family. We will not make families feel as if they must carry this burden alone. We will codify Roe v. Wade, and we will truly be a pro-life party by making sure we have care for families, pre and postnatal care, and children for life, regardless of their abilities. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, for our next question, I'm going to turn to Larry Lindsay, and we're going to start. This question will be directed first to Malcolm Kenyatta, and then we'll go around from there. So Larry.
Mr. Kenyatta, Pennsylvania, with its abundant fossil fuel resources, is a leading supplier of natural gas, coal, refined petroleum, and refined petroleum products. If elected, what would you, as a member of the United States Senate representing Pennsylvania, do to protect not only Pennsylvanians, but all Americans, and indeed the inhabitants of the entire planet, from the disastrous effects of the consumption of these fossil fuels?
You're on mute.
Oh, first of all, thank you. First of all, I'm going to tell the truth. We cannot continue to do business as usual. And in one breath, you'll have every Democrat in this race say there's a climate emergency. In the other breath, you have folks in this race who say, well, we should just keep doing what we're doing and try to transition quicker. No, I think we should not be in the business of approving any more permits for fracking, period. I've called for a moratorium on that. I'm proud to be one of the co-chairs, along with Representative Sarah Innamorato of Pennsylvania Climate Power, the Pennsylvania chapter of it. And I'm proud to have been in Harrisburg fighting to protect our environment and to actually invest our resources in the sustainability of our planet, but also sustainable jobs. There is this completely false choice that if we address the climate emergency, that we treat it like the emergency that it is, that somehow Pennsylvania will no longer be an energy leader, when in fact, The question is whether or not we are going to be an energy leader, but in the energies of the future, whether or not Pennsylvania is going to be the place that's manufacturing the most solar panels in this country, that's building out the components that are necessary to do geothermal, that is building the components that are necessary to do hydro, to do wind, whether or not Pennsylvania is the place that leads on remediating all the uncapped the abandoned mines that we have, the uncapped wells that we have. And in the Build Back Better infrastructure plan was a lot of money to remediate these different environmental harms. If we are going to win this race, we have to understand that the base of our party wants somebody who's not wishy-washy on advancing an agenda that meets this climate emergency. And I'm happy that Eric Orts, who was in this Senate race completely around climate issues, has endorsed my campaign because he says he believes I'm the best candidate to treat the climate emergency like what it is, and who will be able to win in November. And so we all know what we need to do. Now we actually just need to get about doing it. And as your senator, I will be advancing those proposals and won't be voting for additional tax breaks for these dirty industries. Instead, putting those tax breaks in Pennsylvania, building and leading the future around green energy and the jobs it will provide.
You're on mute.
Thank you. Sorry about that. And now we'll turn to Alex Khalil.
I want to compliment Malcolm on adopting my policies from the very beginning. I was one of the first to call for expanding into hydrogen, into geothermal, and to building manufacturing in Pennsylvania for alternative energies. My policy was in terms of the environment, or actually more broad. You see, I've learned a little bit about the environment in that in how we live. We either farm or we mine. This idea of calling solar and wind simply green, I do not agree with, because it involves extensive mining, from lithium to iron to copper. These involve extensive mining. Does it mean that we sit back and say, well, because you don't emit carbon, that the whole process is not carbon producing, or that it is not destructive? It is. That is why I support the Green New Deal. What is it about the Green New Deal that I support? Workers' rights, workers' safety, environmental stewardship, human rights. Because today we're fighting about oil or maybe gas. Tomorrow we're going to fight about lithium and copper. The same companies that today are oil companies are now starting to call themselves sustainable energy companies. I invite you to read about Royal Dutch Shell, which is the third largest polluter, which is now saying, oh, no, we are a sustainable company and we are going to go towards, we're going to go towards sustainable energy. My point is this: environmental stewardship, regardless of the source, regardless of the industry, must be the standard, regardless. Because if you take a look at Pennsylvania, through its vast resources, its vast industries, whether they be steel, chemical, pharmaceutical, batteries, or the industries themselves, the energy industries themselves, are polluters. In Chester County, a paper company was created a Superfund site. They cleaned it up and now are building a new paper facility. In Berks County, there was a battery facility. Same thing, polluted, terrible Superfund site. Environmental stewardship, regardless of the industry, regardless of the energy, regardless of how it's extracted. That's what's important. So yes, we cap wells. That should have always been the case. We demand more upfront in terms of bonds so that they clean it up as soon as it's possible, not that they end up filing for bankruptcy and we, the taxpayers, have to pay for the dregs while they've taken out the riches. Finally, real quick, Pennsylvania and across the country, we need a national royalties fund like what they have in Alaska, where our sovereign fund, where our royalties of all energy sources, alternative, gas, whatever, waste to energy, all that goes into the sovereign fund to pay for the future. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. And Kevin Baumler.
So I think that Malcolm, Alex, and I agree more than we disagree on this particular topic of stopping contracts for fracking. We're in unison. We're three of the Senate candidates that feel quite strongly, different points of view. I feel from a health and healthcare perspective, we know for a fact that babies born within 3-mile radius of a fracking site are born 25% less birth weight. We know for a fact that older adults live within a radius of fracking sites die younger. We know for a fact that we don't know the chemicals that are being injected, organic chemicals being injected into the land and therefore contaminating our water and soil. We don't know what they are. We do know that they cause cancer and increase cancer rates amongst people living near fracking sites. Those are healthcare facts that we know. We can't be pro-climate and for continuing fracking like two of the other candidates that aren't here tonight. Those things don't match. So if you want to differentiate something about the three that are here versus the two that aren't, it's a very clear difference that you can think about and research about, because I think we've all, Malcolm, Alex, and I have all come out quite strongly in writing and in our presentations about how we feel about fracking and what we should do about the industry that exports gas, not imports. It's not for us. These companies are harming us here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania so that they can make more money. Come on, we can stop doing that. We can do better. We can implement some of the great parts of Build Back Better to put forward more electric vehicles, implement more solar and wind so that we can have a new economy based on that, and maybe 85% renewable days are in our future. And at the same time, stop the things that are really harmful right now for our climate, for our people who live here in the Commonwealth. Thank you.
All right, so for the next question, we're going to turn to Sean Murphy from the First Ward. And this question, we're going to start with Alex Khalil and go around from there. So Sean.
Great. Pennsylvania has a very diverse political landscape, including many conservative, moderate, and progressive voters across a range of the geographies from rural areas, suburban areas, and also large urban centers. What is your path to victory to win more votes than both your Democratic and Republican opponents? And that includes getting voters who might be more progressive or more moderate than you on certain issues.
My path is really to go out to across the state, as I've always done, even as an activist. And as I have been doing, I actually have also gone out to the immigrant community quite a bit, because what I've noticed as I look at the raw data is that the immigrant population is either independent typically or Republican. I'm very surprised about that. And so whether they're Hindu, Muslims, Sikhs, Jain, Uyghurs, no, sorry, Wiccas, I believe in reaching out to everyone, reaching out. And I have been doing that even for other candidates who I helped in Western Pennsylvania and Western Montgomery County. So to me, it's important that I understand the entire geography, because to your point, Sean, this election is quite unique. We have Dr. Oz, who's Muslim, who's running for United States Senate. I'm Muslim. Malcolm, I believe your dad is Muslim. And Sharif Street is Muslim. So I think this is quite unique that there's a feeling that, hey, a Muslim could win the United States Senate and would win votes. We have people from Africa running. So that's what I'm doing. I'm looking at the entire landscape and not just saying, well, this particular group I'm going to focus on. I'm focusing on what I like to call the entire rainbow of the state politically and geographically and ethnically and religiously.
Great, thank you. And Kevin Baumlin.
So as I travel throughout the Commonwealth, we bought this old ambulance, and we've been put before I broke my ankle, but we put like close to 9,000 miles traveling to 40 different counties across the Commonwealth. I call it Dr. B's kitchen table tour. And we talk about kitchen table issues. We talk about issues in red counties as well as blue counties. And it really circles back to three big things: healthcare, jobs, and education. People are worried about how they're going to care for their older adults. Time and time again, I hear this conversation of like, how are we going to, like, what do we do if mom or dad or grandma needs just a little extra help. What kind of living situation are they going to be in? Can we afford it? Are they going to have to go bankrupt? Because the way our system works, the only way you can get comprehensive healthcare as you age is to literally go bankrupt and spend all your money. So you're on Medicaid and Medicare, so you don't have supplemental costs and you get more comprehensive Medicare. Like, these are really important issues for people who are blue and red. They also, people who are in the middle of the Commonwealth and the T, if you say, they talk about jobs, and they feel in their hearts, in their guts, that the good paying jobs were stolen and taken away to China, that they're gone and they're never going to come back. And if we as Democrats own that issue too, let's build stuff here. Let's make it in Pennsylvania. Alex talks about this on the show all the time. Like, how can we bring those good high paying jobs back to Pennsylvania? And I do that. I'm a business person. I started urgent care center right down a couple of blocks away from where many of you are sitting. I know business. I know how to work a P&L. I know how to pay people's salaries. I know how to worry about, oh my God, am I going to make budget or not? I know how to talk to business leaders. I've been talking to Chamber of Commerce leaders. What's the business environment like? Let's build those bridges. We can do this, Democrats, not just leave that to the Republicans. What's the business environment like so we can bring Intel to Pennsylvania instead of Ohio? What's the business environment like so that we can bring Siemens to Pennsylvania instead of California and Texas? We need to do that hard work of building those bridges to the community so that we can bring those high paying jobs and bring other independents and Republicans over to the Democratic side as well. I think I got dinged. Sorry.
And Malcolm Kenyatta.
Let me just say this as plainly as I can. This race and your choices in this race do not boil down to two straight white guys from Pittsburgh. This race is going to be decided, frankly, in southeastern Pennsylvania. And I think we have made the mistake of buying into this idea that only a certain type of person who threads this whatever needle is the right person. I will tell you, people are tired of that BS, to be honest. We have to have a nominee who's able to speak with a level of urgency and authenticity about what's broken. We have done that. That's why we have built a campaign that has been incredibly broad with support that traverses the state, the second most individual donors in the race. Folks like SEIU, the multiple Teamsters locals, multiple AFSCME locals, the American Federation of Teachers, PFT, District Council 33. So many folks have backed this campaign. So many of my colleagues, including members of Congress who have backed this campaign. And the polls have been pretty consistent, mine and internal polls that we've seen, at least from the Fetterman campaign, that have showed this is a pretty fluid, three-person race with me as one of the three. And turns out, hey, I'm a candidate from Philadelphia. If we're going to win this race, what it's going to require is us turning out our base of voters, first and foremost. Then what it's going to require are getting a lot of voters who are independent, not because they don't align more with one party, but they're independent because they feel like a lot of elected officials are full of crap. And so we think about what we need to do to make sure we win. We need to look back at the voters we lost in 2016 who went from Obama to Trump. Those voters, 1.3 million of them, a lot of research has been done on why these people changed from Biden to Trump. One of the things that we know is that majority of those voters are working 2.5 jobs. That a majority of those voters are traveling upwards of 3 hours back and forth from work every single day. That a majority of those voters are thinking about and engaging in politics for 4.5 minutes a week. These are people who are the actual working people that Democrats will again and again and again say we're fighting for, but then not nominate when we're given a chance. If we are a party of working people, it's not good enough to elect and nominate somebody who might talk about working people occasionally when they get in office. Let's actually nominate a working person. If we are a party that's for Black Lives Matter, we truly believe that, then you know what? Electing Black elected officials matter. Let's make history and elect an actual elected person. I remember seeing one of my opponents get article after article written about hanging a gay flag when we have a gay candidate running for US Senate. If we believe in the rights and the dignity of every single person, hey, let's nominate that person. And not because I am those things, by virtue of me running, I will break those barriers, but because I know in my bones what happens when politicians promise everything and deliver nothing. This is not something I heard. I didn't do a walking tour. Somebody have to write a white paper about it. I know it because I live it every single day. You have an opportunity, all the folks on this call, you are the people that knock the doors, that turn out the voters. If you support our campaign, we will win. If we win Philadelphia in a robust way, we will win, period. And with your support, I know we're going to get it done.
Are we allowed to,
We-
answer back?
No,
Would you
we
like
are
to-
we are just up at time. I just I wanted to we've got 4 minutes left. So I was going to give you each an opportunity just to say a quick 30-second closing. But before we do, I just want to thank all of the participants for joining and thank all of our co-sponsoring organizations. A lot of hard work went into putting this together, and we really appreciate the candidates' time. We appreciate all of you for joining us this evening. I know I mentioned at the beginning of this, but since I know people were it takes a minute or two to log on, you might not have heard, but we didn't get time, you can't cover everything in 1 hour. So we do have written questionnaires from the second ward that candidates have completed, and Neighborhood Networks does as well. Other co-sponsoring organizations may, I don't know. But we've covered a lot of other topics on those. And so we would encourage people to take a look at them, to go to our websites and take a look at those written questionnaires. We also have them from the candidates who couldn't make it tonight. So you're welcome to look at those responses there as well. So with that said, we've got less than 2 minutes left. So I'm just going to give you each 30 seconds to say your final thoughts, and we're back in alphabetical order. So I will start with Kevin Baumlin.
So my name's Dr. Kevin Baumlin. Dr. B for PA is my website. I don't believe that this is a 3-person race. I believe it's a 5-person race. Alex and I are both on the ballot. We've worked very hard to get there. And I think we need to have the dignity and honor and respect to honor us as well. Our careers speak for themselves. Our hard work and our lives speak for themselves. I've been advocating and caring for people for 30 years and done a lot. I think that means something, and I look forward to your vote. I look forward to your interest in my campaign. Thank you so much for your time this evening.
Thank you. And Malcolm Kenyatta.
Thank you so much. My grandfather, Muhammad Kenyatta, was a civil rights activist, and my grandmother, his wife, is still with us. And she is the toughest woman I know, okay? She's tough. She'll take everybody on this call. She called me one day, tears in her eyes, and she said, "Baby, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, because I thought we had fixed some of this stuff. I refuse to have another generation have that conversation. We can make the basic bargain real for every single family. We can nominate a progressive and we can win. We can make sure that Pennsylvania for the next 6 years have somebody that you can close your eyes and trust that they're fighting for your family." I'm Malcolm Kenyatta, a working person running for the US Senate, and I'm gonna do everything I can to earn your vote, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you. And Alex Khalil.
Hi, I'm Alex Khalil. It's been a pleasure and honor to be here today. I'm a Jenkintown Borough Councilor. I'm a mom. I'm a worker. I actually go to work. I was working this morning, and now I'm here talking to you. I know what it is to lose a job. I know what it is not to have health care. I know what it is to be a mother who has a child with a learning disability and fight every day to get that child services. I know what parents sit back and tell me, "I can't afford my prescription drugs. Why are you making me wear a mask and I can't afford an inhaler?" I know that because I've heard it and I've spoken to people. Every day as a borough councilor, people come to my door or see me in the street and tell me their stories. Every day as I've been on the campaign trail, whether it's in the laundromats or whether it's at the fast food folks, or it's just talking to everyday people walking in the streets, I have heard their stories, and I will fight for you because I have been fighting for people since 2007 when I joined the Obama campaign. I am the daughter of immigrants. I know how hard it is to be an immigrant in this country and to try to overcome language, to try to overcome poverty, to try to overcome prejudice. I've seen that, we felt that, and I've learned through my family that through perseverance, through speaking up, through not being afraid, through caring, that you can have the American dream. I want to thank Dr. Ballman for pointing out that there are 2 of us also on the ballot. There's 5 total. And Dr. Ballman and I are so grateful that these wonderful organizations here tonight, I'm sorry I'm stuttering, have given us the opportunity to speak. And I would like to say the reason why the polls have not mentioned us is because it's either presented as other or undecided. Thank you, Dr. Ballman, and thank you, Malcolm. It was a pleasure.
Thank you so
everyone.
much. Thank you. We have we're sharing contact information. I know we're just over time now. I really appreciate everybody's time. We are putting the contact information for everybody into the chat. So if you want to take a look at that before you go, we really appreciate everybody's time. Have a great night, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.